Computer, initialize holosuite.
Hi everyone, and a warm welcome back to the Sci-Fi Feminist podcast. I hope everyone has been well in the week that passed. It's already December and we're already almost heading into 2022. But for the rest of this month, even though it's the holiday season, I will keep bringing you new Sci-Fi Feminist podcast episodes for your holiday listening. So as usual, I would first like to thank my Patreon supporter, Ashley Ariel, for their generous support and their continued support of the podcast. And if you would like to receive a shout out on the podcast or other perks, then head over to my Patreon page and have a look there. There's all sorts of nice perks if you sign up. Alright, so today I am actually joined by a very special guest. She's been a long time friend of mine. I think we've been friends for 16 years or so. I'm not sure. Yeah, we met when I was, when did we meet?
In 2006.
2006, so 12 years old. When we were 12 years old, we're both 27 now. So it's been a long friendship. And this year I had the privilege of supervising her honors degree. So her honors degree topic was very, very interesting. So I invited her onto the show today to talk about her honors research. So this is a really special episode, and it is an episode on video games. So yes, I hope everyone enjoys today's episode. So let me introduce Jonette Lessing. Hi, Jonette.
Hi, nice to be here.
It's really good to have you on the show. Thank you for joining me. Okay, so can you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hi, I'm Jonette Lessing. I just finished my honors. I'm at the moment working as a graphic designer, and in my free time I'm mostly playing games. My favorite game at the moment that I'm replaying is Witcher 3.
Oh, The Witcher. Is it because the new season is coming out?
I'm preparing for the new season.
I literally started rewatching The Witcher 2 days ago. Yeah, I got through episode 1 now, and then I cried because what's her name? The queen.
Calanthe.
Yeah, she jumped from the window, and I was like crying. So I thought maybe I shouldn't watch this again. But
she's one of the best characters.
Yeah, I really love her. All right, so yes. So what was your honors research on? Can you give us some background on the study?
Okay, so been a fan of World of Warcraft my whole life, and I just decided that I think it's definitely necessary to do some research on this. I didn't really think that it would go into an honors dissertation, but it did actually, and it was one of the best experiences I've had, working with something so close that you love with your whole heart. But the whole point of my research was to prove.
I don't like that word prove.
Yeah, my supervisor doesn't like the word prove. I'm not allowed to use it actually. And just, to show how post-femininity is still relevant and that we are not necessarily where we think we are. And through using World of Warcraft as my visual text, I basically showed that through the years from 2004 till 2020, how the game has developed in regards to feminism, and just, the changes or the lack thereof. And it was through that I did a visual analysis, and I used screenshots within game. Some screenshots were new, some I took over the years of playing. So it was actually a really fun experience. And just through semiotics and hermeneutics, I analyzed the garments and came to a conclusion. Yeah.
So the main character that Jonette looked at in her research is a character called Sylvanas Windrunner. Now, I remember playing World of Warcraft with Jonette. I would go to her house, and then for like 3 days we wouldn't sleep, and we would just be playing World of Warcraft. And her characters always had a much higher level than mine, so she would always, with her friend, take me through the dungeons and help me to level up quickly. And I got a name in the game. My name was Melee Mage, because I was a mage that would always go right up to the boss and then cast a spell right up there when I really don't need to, when I'm supposed to do ranged damage. But I actually never encountered Sylvanas in the game. I don't know if do I just not remember that, or...
It could be they just maybe skip on the scenes, but there isn't a few expansions that she doesn't appear as much as such in I think it was in vanilla, and then in what's the second, Burning Crusade. But she makes appearances here and there, but she only really started getting relevant. I think was from Warlords of Draenor, going forward. That's when she really started becoming a part of the main story.
And which year was that?
No,
2004-ish, or...
when she started.
Yeah.
So the game was launched in 2004. And I would say she definitely started appearing more in the expansions around 2010. Or so.
Okay. So, to give some background on post-feminism, so Jonette mentioned post-feminism a bit earlier when she was explaining about Sylvanas. But to recap post-feminism, now I've done many episodes on this before, especially pertaining to Lara Croft, who's also a video game character. But post-feminism basically views women's empowerment through sexualization, and also women's empowerment through embodying very masculine attributes in terms of their personality and characters. So you would often find very violent female characters, but their bodies remain very sexualized, and their bodies still conform to the very standard and ideal Western style of beauty. So, Jonette, can you elaborate on what makes Sylvanas post-feminist?
I think, when she actually first appeared in Warcraft 3, she was, from the start, she was seen as this hero, and in the end, she was basically mutilated by Arthas. And her whole purpose throughout, till War of the Wrath of the Lich King, is to get revenge on Arthas for everything he has done to her. She doesn't really have any other links to anything else except revenge and hatred. And while doing that, she's wearing a skimpy outfit with a bra. Yes, she is a Dark Ranger, and she is not necessarily a melee fighter, but it's not logical armor for any warrior. So
I think in these types of video games, we often see this discrepancy between female armor and male armor. First of all, the female armor,
yes,
it doesn't actually protect anything that it should protect.
No.
You would not go into battle looking like that, because you'll get stabbed in the stomach.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And in the end of my dissertation, I actually mentioned games such as Terra, which I think they're an Asian video game, but, the higher level you are, the less clothes you're wearing, which I find is quite disturbing. And when you're a male character, you just keep on getting more badass armor, bigger shoulder pads, more dramatic armor, So, and that's what I used to analyze Sylvanas in my dissertation. There were instances where she would be covered up, but she would be covered up with a corset, which is a whole other theory on the side, because corsets are there to
constrict women.
Exactly. So it was very interesting to see how they're basically trying to say We're covering her up, but we're still sexualizing her.
I think we've realized that sexualization does not only depend on how much skin is shown, but also the shape of the female character, the silhouette. So to give some context, actually, Jonette, she studies fashion. She doesn't actually study visual studies like me. So she specifically looked at it from a fashion point of view. Don't you think it's also ironic that corsets were designed by men in the, 1800s? When was it a thing? And yet here again, we have a video game character who is mostly designed by men.
Yes.
Or, I don't know. I don't know if you know the statistics or demographics, but are there many female programmers in the video game? Or is she designed by...
No, she was designed by men, definitely, yes. They have increased their female programmers and designers, but it's still mostly run by men. And obviously with the Blizzard scandal that happened this year, I think it's also very important to take that into consideration. And
so what was that scandal about?
The scandal was that the Blizzard employees, the women were being discriminated against.
In what way?
Sexualization, mostly sexualization, sexual ways.
Sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment, yes. And I know that, what I've read is that I think more than 20% of the females came out and said that they've experienced that. And there was even an article that said that when the women complained, the men would boo them out of the office.
Oh my goodness.
And told them that they are too sensitive, which is just your typical.
Yeah. I think toxic workplaces, especially in male-dominated industries like the video game industry, is a very big reason why women don't go into those industries in the first place. I remember reading an article by Mia Consalvo. She's one of my academic... I'm a fangirl. And she actually wrote an entire paper on why women don't go into the video game industry because of structural sexism. I also think it's interesting. I was wondering your thoughts. When you play as a female character, or when you see a female character like Sylvanas in the game, does it offend you as a woman to see a character who is so sexualized? Does it bother you at all when you play?
When I grew up, the only thing I thought was, whoa, she's so cool. I want to be her, And I think for a long time, I didn't really think of it in that way because I was naive. When I started studying, I started seeing things in a new way. And yes, then it started offending me and annoying me that in any game, the way that the person was dressed or the female was supposed to look, Even when you look at Diablo 3, the demon hunters. I mean, she's in sky high heels, running at full speed.
I remember we played Diablo 3. I was a mage.
Yes.
Yeah. What did she always say? If only they could see me now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I remember. And you were running around in your heels.
Yes. And
with your bow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I get it that video games are not necessarily supposed to be realistic in some senses, but I just think it's a bigger thing than people actually understand.
Yeah, I think for me too, I think everyone knows I'm a huge Tomb Raider fan, and the first video game I ever played and I ever had was Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness on PlayStation 2. And that time I was 8 years old when I got it. I was really young, and when I played as Lara Croft, it was the same for me. I was like, wow, she's just such a cool character, so badass. I wish I could be like her. And then the other day, for my research, I was writing a paper on Lara Croft, and I wanted to get a screenshot. I fired up Tomb Raider Legend again. And I played this game and I was like, this is absolutely absurd, actually. The degree of the sexualization.
Definitely.
And I wonder, as a child growing up, or as a woman or girl growing up, did you ever feel like those types of beauty ideals influenced what you perceived as beautiful and what you perceived as what a woman should look like or what a woman should be like? Did that have any impact on your perception of femininity?
Yes, of course. I mean, the media basically told us through video games, through TV, through magazines that you want. Well, at that time, you just wanted to be you wanted a flat, small body. Where today you want more of an hourglass. But there were standards. Even when I was 11, I was looking at these magazines, and that's how I should look. And you were just okay with it. You accepted it because you didn't know what else, or that you're allowed to be different or look different. In today's time, I would say there's definitely more space to be yourself, but actually really not,
And working in the fashion industry, how do you think the fashion industry is doing in terms of that?
So I have there's two sides of this. The first is that models, yes, they are incredibly thin. But the problem is when you start dressing someone even a bit bigger than a model, your clothes are not necessarily going to be represented in the right way. Yes, that is problematic. Your clothes should be catering for everyone, but that's unfortunately how it is these days. And on the other hand, it's very superficial. You can't really dress how you want when you're overweight. I've struggled with that even. You have less places to shop at. I mean, like if you think of Zara and such, they only have limited sizes. But definitely you're still sexualized even when you're in the fashion industry. Also, I've heard a few comments where men have told me it's good that you're in the fashion industry because you're going back to your roots of sewing and making clothes.
Wow, that is... Yeesh.
Yes, exactly.
Rude. Okay. I would slap a guy.
JK, I can't make clothes.
Yeah, so growing up, I must say for me too, when playing Lara Croft a lot, I also thought like, oh, this is actually what a woman is and what a woman should look like. I want to get back to the idea of Sylvanas' like narrative, her story. You mentioned the whole revenge arc. I think it's very interesting that we see many tough women. They can't just be tough.
No.
For the sake of being tough, but they had to be wronged somehow. We have many like rape revenge narratives, Yes. I'm not sure if Sylvanas falls into that category.
There is speculations. As far as I understand, it wasn't said, but it was implied.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And then, we have other, narratives that, a woman has been wronged in some way and then she seeks revenge and she gains her power through that. And this is actually a femme fatale thing too. So in her dissertation, Jonette also talked about the femme fatale. I've done was this with Courtney? Oh no, I've done another episode. Oh yes, it was Captain Janeway and the femme fatale.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm interested, can you elaborate a little bit more on how Sylvanas is the femme fatale figure that we see in film noir?
Well, she obviously, she's not like perfectly fit into the femme fatale, but I would definitely say traits that put her in the category is, like you said, the revenge. She's just out to get revenge on a man. She's angry. She's using her she's not necessarily directly using her sexualization, but she's still being sexualized through her narrative. She's definitely desired by men through. If you talk to anyone actually that plays World of Warcraft, they will tell you that Sylvanas is, the hot one.
I remember seeing lots of memes when the latest expansion came out. There was one scene in the trailer where she pulls her face in some way, and then they would screenshot that and make some sexual innuendo about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good example, actually.
So I can see how this really plays into that idea of the femme fatale, who is seen as an empowering figure for women because she's this kind of mysterious, lone female character who is in control of her own destiny, who is alluring, who does whatever she wants, but still she's a character that remains desired by men.
But she's also the enemy of men.
While also being the enemy of men. I think, and I know there's a lot of like Freudian theory regarding the femme fatale. I wouldn't want to go into that too much because it gets quite hectic, but this idea that the femme fatale embodies men's fears of powerful femininity. How do you think that, I don't know, plays into Sylvanas?
I think definitely that she should be feared. Specifically with the part where she wants revenge, and how this man has mutilated her, and I think it's because she's just as skilled as Arthas. The only thing maybe is that Arthas has a higher power that is helping him, but otherwise they're the same, and I think in general, in the game, femininity is feared.
You can see, especially in the way that, and this goes back again to her sexualization, once a female character becomes too powerful, then she becomes sexualized, so as to kind of reinforce that idea of male control, the male gaze. She is submissive in terms of her sexuality. Actually,
what is really interesting in Shadowlands, she becomes one of the main characters, but she shows weakness to she's become the strongest that she's ever been, and she's finally gaining what she wanted from the beginning, which is power and being in charge. And now she's finally started showing her heart, which, like to Andean, who she gives the choice, actually, before she turns him into a Death Knight, she actually gives him the choice that she never had. So she's actually being a character. She has an emotional boundness to her.
Like a stereotypical feminine response,
yes,
which is a moment of weakness for her.
Definitely.
And that ultimately becomes her undoing. In the end, that ultimately is her downfall.
She can't stay she can't be powerful and be the bad guy. In the end, she goes against the wishes of what she's actually wanted to be doing the whole time, and she decides to stop. And and then basically she loses all her power, which is such a typical thing to happen. She won't achieve what she wanted. Her emotions will get in the way.
It's interesting. Once a female character becomes too powerful, then, in terms of her narrative arc, she grows a heart, and her femininity and hormones and emotions take over, and then eventually that becomes her problem.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is, and that's a very post-feminist thing, I think, too. So actually, I have argued that so Jonette's argument is basically that when we look at Sylvanas' progression, that there hasn't really been any change in terms of the representation of the character. So she was a post-feminist and femme fatale character when she first appeared in the early 2000s, and she still is. She hasn't changed.
Yes.
Well, obviously, if you've listened to previous episodes, you will know that I've argued that actually post-feminism is over. It's actually not a thing anymore. Definitely, we still see post-feminist characters like Sylvanas, but it's interesting that in some of the new heroines, like the new version of Lara Croft, here Sylvanas' femininity is her weakness. But actually, for the new version of Lara Croft, we can argue that it is her strength.
Very true. Yes.
I think that's an interesting departure in terms of representation.
I definitely think it could be argued both ways. Definitely.
And I think it's sad that femininity becomes villainized. Or, it's equated again with weakness in the character of Sylvanas. Right, so I don't know, do you have any other comments on the character or on the video game? I think it's also important to note that World of Warcraft, the video game player demographic for World of Warcraft is mostly male. So even though we argue that she might possibly be an empowering female character or a good role model for women, still she's created by men, and she's created for a game which is played predominantly by men. I don't know if you have any comment on that.
No, that's definitely true. In recent years, the percentage of female players has highly increased, which is great. But I also do know that a lot of female players do not tell anyone that they are female players.
Have you ever done that?
Yes, I did that most of my teens.
Oh.
I never said that I was a female, and I wouldn't go on a chat or anything of the sort.
Why did you hide your gender online?
Because then they, at that moment, they start asking you, are you hot? How old are you? You're playing like a girl, typical girl. Because yes, I'm not the best at World of Warcraft, thank you, but I don't think that's because I'm a girl, you know?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So, and yes, there'd be drama, and then people would start, confessing to you, like, it's the most stupidest stuff, you know?
Like what?
They would just tell you that, I think then I'm in love with you. I don't know, you're a woman. You're like my best friend. It's stupid things like that because they're just so excited to see a woman that's playing a game. So, I just stopped doing that, and I don't want to be treated any differently than they treated each other. So that was just very important for me, just to set the boundaries there. And it's sad that I had to do that, and I will still do that, even though female gamers is totally normal now and totally okay. Well, I mean, kind of.
On the surface, maybe.
Yes, but obviously there's a lot of hate towards it. But I'm not in the mood for
all the drama.
Exactly, yeah.
I think I've had a slightly different experience with Destiny. I found Destiny to be quite accommodating in terms of female players, but I guess that's a different platform, different game. But yeah, I totally understand in terms of World of Warcraft that you don't want to say you're a girl online for those reasons. I don't think I've ever played it enough to get to that point because I was always running around with you in the game. So
I think it's with World of Warcraft, it's got to do with the legacy issue. I think that's why they're struggling to let go that it's not a male game anymore. Yeah. Well, it was never, but I think that's the huge problem.
I think there's also the negative stereotype that women can't play, they're not good at games that are complicated like World of Warcraft. The idea that women play Candy Crush and Sims.
I do play Sims.
Same. But that's not all I play.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think we still have some, when we look at the representation of Sylvanas, we might still have some way to go. And, when we look at the online environment and the whole issue at Blizzard, the sexism issue at Blizzard, I think women still have a far way to go in the video game industry.
But they've also come very far, which is something to...
That is absolutely true. Yes. All right. So, do you have a movie recommendation for the listeners?
So it's not a new movie, and it's maybe a bit mainstream, but I would definitely give Midsommar a watch. It's basically a horror thriller, I would say. The visuals are amazing, and definitely recommend it. If you haven't watched it yet, give it a try.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, so I might.
Yes, please.
I'm currently working through Mad Max. After Mad Max, I'll do Midsommar. All right, everyone. Thank you. We will wrap up today's episode here. Thank you for tuning in as always. And thank you for supporting the podcast and for listening. If you have any comments for me or Jonette, then please feel free to reach out on social media. This is the Sci-Fi Feminist signing off. Live long and prosper. You want to say live long and prosper?
Live long and prosper. Thank you so much.
And then see everyone again next week. Bye-bye.
This show is brought to you by Holosuite Media. Computer, list other available Holosuite Media programs.
Loading Holosuite Preview Program 4, The Janeway, a Star Trek Voyager podcast.
Yeah, so we cut to night time. Harry sneaks out of the bed and starts looking up Voyager with his security codes, etc. Again, should be in underwear, but...
Computer, show me Tom Paris. No, I'm just kidding.
Show me his location right now. Oh, he's 450 meters away. Hey.
Oh my gosh, it was Grindr. That's... He's like, I have to go to a hookup. Libby, I have to go to Bear. He found him on Space Star Trek Grindr, and he's like, it's Space Grindr.
Loading Holosuite Preview Program 4, Beyond Farpoint, a Star Trek The Next Generation podcast.
And Picard's the other character trying to solve the mystery. So he leaves for that reason alone. It could really be any character. Any one of the main cast members could have gone with Data and been there with Data several days later trying to solve what happened to the Enterprise. It's very, very much a kind of a plot reason and nothing more, I think.
Yeah, I kind of wish Data had stayed on the ship, actually, because I would like to have seen him regress to a pocket calculator.
Computer, deactivate Holosuite.